People often mock me, but I am not delusional. I am simply the embodiment of perfection. Someone like me could never rise through sheer luck alone. I am the result of talent, relentless perseverance, and a bit of strategic calculation. And I have never apologized for that. If people don't like me, there's only one reason. They're jealous. Everything in my life is meticulously planned, carefully orchestrated to achieve the pinnacle of success that others can only dream of reaching. Career? Perfect. I was never the type to settle for a mediocre job and drift through life like some people I know. I graduated from an Ivy League school, not some second-rate institution for the uninspired masses who convince themselves that mediocrity is acceptable. The moment I stepped into the largest financial corporation in New York, I knew I wasn't just another employee. I was a star, destined to shine brighter than anyone else in that gleaming tower of glass and steel. And it took me only 4 years to become the youngest chief financial officer in the company's history, a testament to my exceptional abilities and unwavering determination. People look at me with admiration. I see it in their eyes, the reverence, the longing, the desperate desire to be me. Women want to be like me. Men want to have me. I don't need to try to attract attention. I am the attention. When I walk into a room, conversations pause, heads turn, and everyone becomes acutely aware of my presence. It's not vanity if it's true, and truth is what I deal in. My family knows it too. My mother, Evelyn, is my #1 fan. Ever since I was little, she proudly boasted about me to neighbors, friends, even strangers on social media. My daughter is a genius. Beautiful, successful, soon to be one of Wall Street's most powerful women. I never said it out loud, but I loved that. I loved how proud she was of me. I loved how she only talked about me. She understood my potential from the very beginning, nurturing it with endless praise and encouragement, knowing that one day I would become exactly who I am now. And then there was my father, Richard, a professor of economics at Columbia University. Brilliant yet unbearably dull. He never cared about money or power, had no ambition beyond academic research. He looked at me with scrutiny, as if trying to find some flaw in me. I didn't care. I didn't need validation from a man who saw economic formulas as the pinnacle of achievement. His world was too small, too confined within the dusty walls of academia, while I aimed for the stars. And then, there was my sister, Claire. The faded shadow in the family. The one person I could never quite understand. How could someone grow up with me and still turn out to be such a pathetic failure? How could someone share my DNA and yet be so completely devoid of ambition, of drive, of the burning desire to be extraordinary? She worked as an accountant for some no-name company, spending her days buried in dull spreadsheets, dressing like a middle-aged woman despite being in her mid-30s. No ambition. No presence. Nothing remarkable. And the worst part? She didn't care. She seemed perfectly content with her mundane existence, her unremarkable life, her mediocre achievements that barely deserved to be called achievements at all. While I rose to the top, she stayed exactly where she was. While I made our mother proud, she disappointed her. And yet, she lived so contentedly. It drove me insane. Not because I was jealous, oh God, never. But because I despised mediocrity. I couldn't stand the sight of someone willingly choosing to be average when excellence was within reach. Her contentment with mediocrity was an insult to everything I stood for, everything I had worked so hard to achieve. I despised people like her, people who were utterly insignificant yet lived as if their existence mattered. So I told her, straight to her face. Because someone needed to shake her out of her complacent stupor, someone needed to make her see how pathetically she was wasting her potential, even if that someone had to be her own sister. You're wasting your life. I said it over afternoon tea at home, my voice dripping with the same disdain I felt every time I looked at her mediocre existence. Mother nodded in agreement, her perfectly manicured fingers tightening around her porcelain teacup. Your sister is right, Claire. You're 35. Why don't you apply to her company? She could get you a good position. Mother's voice carried that familiar mix of hope and disappointment, the tone she always used when discussing Claire's career. I crossed my legs, watching her, waiting, my Cartier watch catching the afternoon light. I had handed her a golden opportunity, a chance to finally step out of the shadows and into the light of success. But she simply gave a small smile and shook her head, her plain brown hair falling limply around her shoulders. No need. I'm fine. Her words carried no weight, no ambition, no desire for more. That tone calm, indifferent, yet laced with something that almost felt like pity, as if she somehow had the upper hand in the situation. I hated that. I hated how she didn't try to prove her worth, how she seemed content living in her small, insignificant world. I hated how she wasn't ashamed to be beneath me, how she wore her mediocrity like a comfortable old sweater. I hated how she made me feel foolish for chasing success, as if my relentless pursuit of excellence was somehow misguided. She just sat there, scrolling through her old phone, her face expressionless, wearing that same beige cardigan she'd probably bought from some department store sale. Someone like her, someone utterly meaningless, had no right to look at me that way, with that subtle hint of superiority in her eyes. But that was fine. I had a plan to put her in her place, to show her exactly where she stood in the grand scheme of things. And my promotion party was the perfect opportunity, the stage where I would showcase the vast canyon between our lives. I wanted her to witness my rise, to feel the crushing weight of her own inadequacy. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be left behind, drowning in the wake of my success. I wanted the whole world to see who was the winner and who was the nobody, who deserved admiration and who deserved pity. And I was ready, every detail meticulously planned and executed. Tonight would be an unforgettable night. Not just because it was my promotion party, but because this would be the moment I solidified my status, the moment I cemented my position at the top of the social hierarchy. I chose the Plaza Hotel, one of the most luxurious venues in New York. Not because I had a particular fondness for extravagance, though I had to admit it suited me perfectly, but because I wanted to ensure that every single pair of eyes in that room would be on me, witnessing my triumph. Nothing about tonight was left to chance. Every detail had been carefully arranged, from the champagne selection to the guest list to the lighting that would highlight my entrance. A black silk Versace dress hugged my body, accentuating every perfect curve I had worked so hard to maintain. A diamond necklace shimmered against my skin like stars captured in crystal. Every step I took in my Louboutins echoed powerfully on the marble floor, announcing my presence before I was even seen. I wasn't just successful. I was the embodiment of success, the living, breathing manifestation of everything Claire would never be. The moment I stepped into the grand ballroom, I felt the shift in the atmosphere, like electricity crackling through the air. I could sense it, taste it, revel in it. The lingering gazes, the murmurs of appreciation, the polite smiles laced with envy and desire. I let a small smile touch my lips. Perfect. My mother, Evelyn, was already standing in the center of the crowd. She wore an elegant pearl-colored Chanel dress, her hair neatly pinned up, her face glowing with pride. The moment she saw me, she waved excitedly, like a conductor preparing for her masterpiece. "My darling, come here. Everyone wants to congratulate you." I stepped forward, raising my champagne glass, immersing myself in the praise I deserved. The handshakes, the compliments, the admiration and respect. This was my moment, my coronation. "Sophia, you are truly an inspiration for young women. Congratulations. This position is absolutely well-deserved. New York Financial Group is lucky to have you." I responded to each accolade with my most gracious smile, letting the warmth of their admiration wash over me like a luxurious silk shawl. Each compliment felt like another jewel in my crown of achievement, another validation of my relentless pursuit of excellence. And then, amidst the dazzling lights and the echoes of laughter that bounced off the crystal chandeliers like musical notes, I noticed something that disrupted my perfect symphony. Claire. She was sitting in a dimly lit corner by the floor-to-ceiling window, where the golden chandelier lights didn't quite reach, as if she deliberately chose to remain in the shadows. The darkness seemed to embrace her, creating a stark contrast to the brilliant illumination that surrounded everyone else. Everything around her sparkled, everything except her. Her dress? Certainly a cheap department store purchase, probably from last season's clearance rack. The fabric looked worn and dated, hanging awkwardly on her frame like an afterthought. Her hair? Pulled back carelessly, with no sense of style, not a single strand arranged with purpose. It was the kind of hasty arrangement one might make before doing household chores. Her expression? Empty. No shame in her evident mediocrity. No envy of my glittering success. No disappointment in her own failure to achieve anything remotely significant. She just sat there, perched on the edge of her chair, as if tonight, my night of triumph, had nothing to do with her, as if she were merely an observer at someone else's celebration. A flicker of irritation crept into my chest, hot and sharp like a burning ember. What had I expected? That she would finally feel out of place among the elite? That she would at last feel inferior in her bargain bin attire? That she would finally recognize where she stood in the hierarchy of life? No. Claire was the same as always. Calm, detached, unbothered. Like a stone in a rushing river, refusing to be moved by the current of success flowing around her. I couldn't accept that. She couldn't keep acting this way, couldn't continue pretending that her mediocrity was somehow equal to my excellence. So, when the time came for my speech, I made a calculated decision. Claire would not leave this party without knowing exactly where she stood in the grand scheme of things. I lifted the microphone, flashing my brightest smile, the one that had graced numerous corporate magazines. Welcome, everyone. Applause filled the room like thunder, and I took a deep breath, savoring the moment like fine wine. Tonight, we are here to celebrate an important milestone in my career. Becoming the youngest chief financial officer in New York Financial Group's history is not just a personal achievement, it is a testament to perseverance and relentless effort. The applause grew louder, more intense, like waves crashing against a shore. I let it linger for a moment, basking in the glow of their admiration, letting it fuel my resolve. Then I continued, my voice carrying the weight of carefully planned words. But success doesn't happen by chance. We learn from those around us, from inspiring role models, and from examples of what not to do. I paused deliberately. Let the curiosity rise in the crowd like bubbles in champagne. Then I turned directly to Claire, my eyes finding her in that shadowy corner. And the greatest example I've ever had is my sister. For a split second, silence hung in the air like suspended crystal. Then, a few knowing chuckles rippled through the audience. I smiled, satisfaction coursing through my veins. I have watched my sister live a life I could never accept, a dull job, an existence with no ambition, no goals, no drive. And I told myself, I would never be like that. Scattered laughter grew, spreading through the room like wildfire. A few guests turned to look at Claire, their expressions a mix of amusement and second-hand embarrassment. My mother took a calculated sip of champagne, the corners of her lips lifting in satisfaction, her eyes gleaming with approval. I looked at Claire. Still no reaction. She just stared at me. That gaze, calm, unwavering, infuriatingly serene. A fresh wave of irritation coiled in my chest, tight and venomous. Why wasn't she angry? The question burned through my mind like acid, eating away at my composure. Why wasn't she displaying even a flicker of the humiliation she should be feeling? Why wasn't she shrinking under the weight of dozens of judgmental stares? Why wasn't she reacting the way I wanted her to? The way any normal person would when publicly ridiculed, when their mediocrity was laid bare for all to see. I decided to push further, determined to crack that infuriating mask of serenity. Does anyone here want to teach my sister how to succeed? My voice dripped with honeyed mockery, each word carefully crafted to cut deep. Laughter burst louder, cascading through the room like a waterfall of cruel amusement. Some guests were practically doubled over, their expensive jewelry catching the light as their shoulders shook with mirth. I had won. Finally, I thought, savoring the sweet taste of victory on my tongue. Claire would have to acknowledge her inferiority now. But right at that moment, Claire smiled. Not a forced smile of embarrassment, not a pained grimace trying to hide hurt. No, this was different. A small, fleeting smile. One that held secrets I couldn't decipher, knowledge I didn't possess. It was the kind of smile that made my victory feel suddenly hollow. And then, she lifted her phone and pressed a single button. The simple action shouldn't have seemed threatening, yet something about her deliberate movement sent warning signals through my body. A chill ran down my spine, sharp and electric, like ice-cold fingers tracing each vertebra. And I had no idea that this seemingly insignificant moment, this simple press of a button, would become the catalyst for everything that followed. That moment was the beginning of my downfall. I have never feared the spotlight. Since childhood, it has been my constant companion, my faithful friend. I was born to shine, created for the express purpose of commanding attention. For every gaze to be fixed on me, drawn to my radiance like moths to a flame. For every round of applause to be for me, thunderous and affirming. For me to be the center of admiration, the focal point of every gathering, the star around which all others orbit. But right now, something feels terribly wrong. The air has shifted, become heavy with anticipation I don't understand. The ballroom doors open, silently, yet with undeniable authority. The sound, or rather the lack of it, commands attention more effectively than any announcement could. No one announces, "Welcome, sir." There's no fanfare, no ceremonial greeting. No grand entrance music plays, no orchestral flourish marks his arrival. No waiters rush forward with a glass of the finest wine, though they've been hovering attentively all evening. No, he simply walks in, his presence filling the room more completely than any dramatic entrance could have achieved. Michael Donovan, CEO of New York Financial Group. The name alone carries weight, commands respect, demands attention. The most powerful man in finance, the one everyone wants to impress, the one everyone wants to please. His influence extends far beyond mere business transactions. His approval can make or break careers, shape destinies. But he doesn't look at me. His eyes scan the room with purpose, searching for something or someone else. I feel the entire room shift, like a compass needle suddenly finding true north. The laughter at Claire's expense comes to an abrupt halt, dying in throats as if choked by an invisible hand. The admiring gazes that had been on me suddenly turn elsewhere, abandoning me like fair-weather friends. I swallow down my irritation, forcing back the bitter taste of being ignored. Why is he here unannounced? This wasn't part of the evening's carefully planned schedule. I turn, preparing to step forward and greet him, because, of course, who else would he be here to acknowledge but me? I am, after all, his newest CFO, the star of the evening. But before I can even open my mouth, Michael Donovan walks straight toward Claire. What the hell does she think she's doing? I turn to Michael Donovan, letting out a soft, amused chuckle that sounds hollow even to my own ears. My perfectly manicured nails dig into my palms, leaving crescent-shaped marks on my skin. Claire? Are you sure? I try to keep my voice steady, fighting against the tremor threatening to break through. There must be some mistake. The words come out desperate, almost pleading. But Michael Donovan doesn't even glance at me. Not a flicker of acknowledgement, not even a cursory look. It's as if I've suddenly become invisible, fading into the background like a forgotten painting. His gaze remains locked on Claire, filled with an intensity I've never seen before, the kind of look reserved for people who command genuine respect. There is no mistake, he states firmly, each word falling like a hammer blow against my composure. I have an important announcement to make. I feel the entire energy in the room shift, like a tide pulling away from the shore, leaving me stranded and exposed. Even the people who had been crowding around me, praising me mere moments ago, their words still echoing in my ears, are now looking at Claire. Their attention shifts so quickly, so completely, it makes me dizzy. Looking at her, with the admiration that should have been mine, their faces alight with an interest that burns like acid in my stomach. Michael Donovan lifts the microphone, his voice echoing across the ballroom, filling every corner with authority that demands attention. For years, New York Financial Group has sought out the greatest minds to revolutionize the financial industry. And today, I have the privilege of introducing one of the brightest minds I have ever had the honor of working with. I hold my breath, feeling my chest constrict painfully, my lungs burning for air. Ms. Claire Bennett will be the CEO of one of the largest VC-backed fintech companies in Silicon Valley. It's like I've been struck by lightning, every nerve ending in my body screaming in protest. No, no, No way. The words repeat in my head like a broken record, each iteration more desperate than the last. CEO? Silicon Valley? Claire? Michael Donovan continues speaking, but I feel my entire world crumbling around me, pieces of my carefully constructed reality shattering like fine crystal. Her artificial intelligence project has drawn the attention of the biggest investors in the world. In just 6 months, she has raised over $2 billion. My vision spins, the elegant ballroom becoming a blur of colors and shapes. $2 billion. Each word feels like a physical blow. The room erupts in a cacophony of excited voices and enthusiastic applause. People rush toward Claire, their expensive shoes clicking against the marble floor in their haste. The same people who had been showering me with praise are now lining up to shake her hand, their previous compliments to me forgotten like yesterday's news. My mother's jaw drops, her eyes wide with shock, her champagne glass tilting dangerously in her trembling hand. I can't breathe. The air feels too thick, too heavy. This can't be real. It has to be a nightmare. Claire has an AI project? Claire raised $2 billion? I struggle to think, to make sense of this reality-shattering revelation. What the hell has she been doing all these years? And then I remember. The nights Claire spent locked in her room, the glow of her computer screen reflecting off her glasses, casting eerie shadows on her focused face. I had thought she was just another insignificant nobody, just another office drone with no future, destined to live in my shadow. But all this time, while I had been chasing the spotlight, pursuing surface-level achievements, she had been building an empire right in front of me, laying foundations I was too blind to see. Michael Donovan turns to Claire, the genuine respect in his eyes unmistakable, burning with an intensity that makes my achievements feel suddenly small and hollow. New York Financial Group is proud to be one of the primary investors in her company. And I have no doubt that in the coming years, Claire Bennett will transform the financial industry. I feel lightheaded, the room spinning faster now. I look at Claire. For the first time in my life. I feel afraid of her. She turns to me. Not with mockery. Not with arrogance. Just calmness. She steps forward with measured grace, her movements deliberate and assured. As she picks up the microphone, there's a subtle shift in her demeanor, a transformation from the quiet sister I thought I knew to someone entirely different. When she speaks, her voice carries a strength and authority that sends chills down my spine. I know many people in this room are surprised to see me standing here. The entire ballroom falls into a deafening silence, the kind that makes your ears ring. The clinking of glasses ceases, conversations die mid-sentence, and even the soft rustling of expensive fabric seems to still. To many of you, I have always been nothing more than Sophia's little sister. My entire body freezes, every muscle tensing as if preparing for a physical blow. The words hit harder than any punch could, echoing in the vast space of my suddenly empty mind. But the truth is, I have always had my own plans. I cannot believe what I'm hearing. The words seem to float in the air, mocking me with their implications, their hidden depths now becoming crystal clear. I chose to work as an accountant not because I lacked ambition, but because I needed a quiet place to focus on developing my technology. My mind reels, spinning with memories I'd dismissed, late nights, endless coding sessions, mysterious meetings she'd never explained. All the pieces I'd ignored are now forming a picture I never wanted to see. Claire had planned this from the start? Every moment, every seemingly insignificant decision had been calculated, leading to this precise moment of triumph. Michael Donovan steps forward, his expensive Italian shoes clicking against the stage floor. With a gesture that seems almost ceremonial, he clasps Claire's hand and lifts it high, like a referee announcing the winner of a championship fight. It is my greatest honor to work alongside her. The room erupts in applause, the sound thunderous and overwhelming. The chandelier crystals tremble with the force of it, creating dancing shadows that mirror my internal chaos. Not for me. For Claire. I couldn't breathe. The air feels thick and heavy, refusing to enter my lungs properly. My designer dress suddenly feels too tight, too constraining, like a cage of silk and sequins. The admiring gazes that had once been fixed on me had now shifted to her, leaving me feeling naked and exposed. The people who had once tried to befriend me were now crowding around her, their expensive perfumes mixing into a suffocating cloud as they press forward, eager to be noticed by the new star of the evening. My mother, the one who had always been proud of me, who had always introduced me as her successful daughter, stood frozen, her face betraying her utter disbelief. Her champagne glass trembles slightly in her manicured hand, threatening to spill its contents onto her designer gown. This couldn't be real. I was supposed to be the center of tonight. I was supposed to be the one they admired. I was supposed to be the one they celebrated. The words repeat in my head like a broken record, each iteration more desperate than the last. And yet it had all been stolen, snatched away with the precision of a master thief. I swallowed the lump in my throat, forcing down the fury boiling inside me, threatening to explode like a volcano of rage and humiliation. I had to do something. Anything to regain control of the situation that was spiraling far beyond my grasp. I couldn't let it end like this. Claire set down the microphone, the soft thud echoing in my ears like a death knell. But just as she was about to step off the stage, I stepped forward, my Louboutins clicking against the polished floor with determined purpose. Wait. All eyes turned to me, the weight of their collective gaze almost physical in its intensity. Claire stopped, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Was it pity? Triumph? Challenge? I smiled, but it wasn't a victorious smile. It was the smile of a predator preparing to strike. Because I don't need to prove anything to you. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to slice with a knife. The air felt heavy with unspoken accusations and years of buried resentment. My mother inhaled sharply, the sound cutting through the silence like a blade. Her perfectly composed facade cracked, revealing the raw shock underneath. She was clearly just as stunned as I was by Claire's quiet defiance. I let out a sharp, mocking laugh that echoed against the ballroom's ornate walls, its bitter edge unmistakable. Oh, so that's it? You think you're better than everyone? You think you're so special that you don't need anyone's validation? The words tumbled out, dripping with venom and wounded pride. Claire remained eerily calm, her composure a stark contrast to my barely contained rage. No. Her voice was soft as silk but carried the weight of steel. I just don't need validation from people who belittled me. Each word landed like a precise blow, carefully aimed and devastating in its impact. I felt my heartbeat pound violently in my chest, each thud a reminder of my growing humiliation. She was talking about me, laying bare years of subtle cruelty and dismissal. Right in front of everyone, the investors, the board members, our family, the entire business elite of the city. People were looking at me, their gazes heavy with judgment. The room seemed to close in, suffocating me with their scrutiny. Some smirked, clearly enjoying my downfall. Some frowned, perhaps recalling instances of my past behavior. Some were starting to realize something, the truth about who I really was. And in that moment, I understood with crystal clarity. I had lost. The realization settled in my stomach like lead. Not because Claire had succeeded in her venture. Not because she had been recognized by the industry's elite. But because I had exposed myself in the worst possible way. For what I really was, stripped of all pretense and polish. Someone who only knew how to step on others to climb higher, who measured success by others' failures. My mother stood there, her face pale as expensive porcelain, her carefully applied makeup unable to hide her disappointment. My father looked at Claire with unmistakable pride, the kind he had never shown for me despite all my achievements. Michael Donovan watched the scene unfold, silent and composed, his experienced eyes taking in every detail of my undoing. And me? I had become pathetic in their eyes, a fallen queen, dethroned by her own hubris. I clenched my teeth until my jaw ached, took a deep breath that did nothing to calm me, and turned away from the piercing stares. Congratulations. My voice dripped with bitterness, each syllable coated in defeat. Looks like you won. Claire didn't respond, didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. She simply looked at me, not with triumph or satisfaction, but with understanding that cut deeper than any victory speech could. She didn't need to say anything else. The silence spoke volumes. Because she knew, with the certainty of someone who had watched and waited, I would destroy myself. And she was right, as she had been about so many things. I had lost everything: my reputation, my influence, my carefully constructed image of success. I know what you are thinking. You're laughing at my downfall, aren't you? You're thinking, serves her right. She was too arrogant. Now she's getting what she deserves. You want to see me fail, just like everyone else in that room. But let me tell you something, with all the determination I can muster. This game isn't over. Not by a long shot. I hate her. I want to despise her with every fiber of my being, want to let the bitterness consume me until there's nothing left but raw, seething anger. But I can't, because I know she won. The truth of it burns like acid in my throat. Claire pulls out a chair and sits across from me in the quiet cafe, her movements deliberate and graceful. The afternoon light catches her face, highlighting the quiet confidence I once mistook for weakness. I don't say anything. I just stare at her, waiting for the mockery, the gloating, the final twist of the knife. My fingers drum restlessly against the polished wooden table. But she just sighs, a sound heavy with something that isn't quite pity. Are you happy? The question hangs in the air between us, deceptively simple yet devastating in its directness. I let out a bitter laugh that tastes like defeat on my tongue. What do you think? I say, my voice sharp with barely contained resentment. You took everything from me. You won. You should be the happy one. Claire is silent for a moment, studying me with those perceptive eyes that seem to see right through my carefully constructed walls. Then, she says something that leaves me speechless, words that crack the foundation of everything I thought I knew. You didn't lose because I won. You lost because you never knew what you truly wanted. I frown, the truth of her words hitting harder than any accusation could. You've always chased success. But have you ever asked yourself, what are you succeeding for? Have you ever actually felt happy with everything you achieved? I say nothing, the weight of her questions pressing against my chest like a stone. No one has ever asked me that before. Not my parents, not my mentors, not even myself. All my life, I've run after power, recognition, admiration, collecting achievements like trophies, measuring my worth in victories and defeats. But was I ever truly happy? The question echoes in my mind, uncomfortable in its simplicity. I don't know, and that uncertainty terrifies me more than any failure. Claire stands up, ready to leave, her chair scraping softly against the floor. But before she does, she places a business card on the table with deliberate care. If you really want to start over, you can call me. Then, she walks out of the cafe, leaving me there, drowning in 100 tangled thoughts that refuse to settle. I look down at the card, its crisp edges mocking my disheveled state. Her name, the title CEO, a phone number. I grip the card tightly, feeling the expensive paper bend under my fingers. Maybe this isn't the end. Maybe I still have one more chance to rewrite my story. Claire won. She took everything: my reputation, my position, my spotlight. The empire I built crumbled in a single day. But don't think for a second that this game is over. Life isn't fair. I didn't cheat, I didn't sabotage anyone. I only pursued success with single-minded determination. And yet, people celebrate my downfall like vultures circling their prey. Never underestimate the silent ones. I thought Claire was insignificant, a footnote in my story. But she brought me down right in front of the whole world with quiet precision. Even the defeated deserve a second chance. I may have lost everything that once defined me, but I still have myself. And as long as I exist, I still have a chance to rise again. Comment: do you think I deserve this? Like if you believe Claire earned her victory. Share if you've ever met a Sophia or a Claire in real life. Subscribe, because I'm coming back. And this time, I won't lose.